get started here, just so you'll know, we do have a little bit of a situation with capacity with this room. And unfortunately, well, you're the fortunate ones because you came early enough to get a seat and were able to stand. We have a line out the door, and we had to have the fire marshal come and prevent him from coming in because of the fire code. Just so you'll know, those people will still be able to participate. We're going to get their names and their email addresses, and what this is an information gathering meeting anyway, and we will be sending the presentation and the survey that you will see tonight to them so that they can still participate via the internet. My name is Joel Evans. I'm the zoning planning director for Charleston County. All right? And we also have the city staff, Jacob Lindsay and Christopher Morgan with the planning staff. But before we actually get going here, the two council members, the city council member and the county council member, if they want to have a few things to say before we get going, we've got it. If you don't, that's fine as well. So, this is County Council Member Anna Johnson.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anna Johnson, County Council Member for District 8, serves Johns Island, and I'm so glad to see all of you. I know some of you had to go to work today, but you made it here like me on time, and so great. I hope that this turns out to be a good information session for you, and we get to hear some of the concerns that you have. So, with that said, I will pass it on to Mr. Wagner, City Council Member.
Hi guys, Marvin Wagner, District 5, City of Charleston, and I am your representative for the city. We have had something very similar to this one other time with Joel in the county. It's called DUWA, DuPont Road and Walker Road, West Ashley. And basically that's where we came together. All the rules became one. They were different than the city was different than the county. People go against each other to see how quickly they could get the best deal if they wanted to build something. It ended up to be a very, very positive thing, and it's now in its, I guess, second year, and it's worked out pretty well. So this is a good idea. Let's hope we have equal, if not better, results. I'm looking over this. We got to meld the 2007-2008 plan with what's going on here, which is where we did these charrettes for what, 2, 3, 4 times over the better part of a year, and came up with the plan that never got fully implemented. So we'll try again, I guess.
Why not?
Yeah,
Why didn't it get
I don't know, I wasn't here then, but it didn't happen. Now it probably will. That's part of the growth commission, which the county and city had set up to talk about. Now, the only thing I hadn't seen here yet, I've seen land uses, but we got another animal on the horizon that we're going to have to figure out how to get into this, and it's called your flooding. West Ashley, you know, when we got houses completely underwater over there and we're having to buy them out, that's kind of overshadowed what's going on over here. Y'all got problems over here too, big time. If we don't quit building, they're going to get bigger. So that's all I have to say. Let's see what Joel has come up with. This will be the first time I've seen it too.
Okay. So, to make it clear why we are here to look at the Maybank Highway Overlay Zoning District. Right now, the county has an overlay zoning district along Maybank Highway.
Can you say what an overlay zoning district is?
Sure, an overlay zoning district is a zoning district that's adopted by council like any other zoning district, but is specific to an area, all right? And the purpose of it is designed to customize the types of uses that would be appropriate, all right? I'll go through a little bit in more detail, but that's about Maybanks, but that's what's going on. Right now, the county has an overlay zoning district along Maybank. The city does not. And I think one of the reasons why we want to do this exercise is to make sure that the city and the county are on the same page as far as land use and development standards for whatever gets built along Maybank Highway. But I do want to stress this is specific to the corridor of Maybank Highway. And in the county, you'll see in the presentation, we are looking at what we call potential nodes of non-residential and non-agricultural uses along Main Road. For instance, around the Kitford and the packing shed, around Humbert Road area in there, where you see some commercial type uses going on there. What happens with zoning is that zoning categories tend to be very broad, and they allow a lot of uses that may not necessarily be appropriate to certain regions. So we're going through this exercise to try to call out the uses that may not be appropriate for that specific zoning district, like commercial or industrial, and to find out what kind of development standards would be appropriate, because a development standard for downtown Charleston or for Mount Pleasant is probably not necessarily going to be the same standard that would be appropriate for Johns Island. So that's really what it's all about, is to start talking about what kind of uses would be appropriate along there. I'm jumping ahead a little bit. But as I said, this is co-hosted. So this is, even though I may be up here talking a lot, I hope Jacob will be talking a lot too a little later. But this is a joint effort with the city and county, which is very important. Because as I show you these maps, you'll see that the jurisdiction boundaries along this corridor are really right about at 50-50. So about 50% of the corridor properties on the corridor of the city, about 50% are in the county. Well, our council members just gave our introduction. I don't know if my administrator, Jennifer Miller, made it in before we had to cut out. It's a shame she didn't. Walt Smalls was going to come. He's actually my boss. He's the deputy administrator. As I said, I've introduced myself. I'm the zoning and planning director. Andrea Petras is in the back. She's the deputy planning director. Eric Adams will be here from our transportation department to talk briefly about transportation. Dan Frazier is working the laptop for me. Nikki Grimble is a planner. I think she may be out in front trying to do crowd control. And Jacob Lindsay, he's the planning director for the city of Charleston. Christopher Morgan, as I said, and Aaron Holly, also planner for the city. So you can see that we have a mix of the jurisdictions here, both from the elected on down to the staff. The agenda tonight, the purpose, we want to go over the purpose of the project of the Maybank Highway and Main Road zoning project. And also, we want to talk a little bit about the current Maybank corridor. I told you that the county has already adopted one. We want to talk about the urban growth boundary a little bit, and what that is and what that means. The 2007 Johns Island plan, I'll primarily let the city staff talk about that. The proposed overlay boundary and the existing land uses within that boundary, and the status of the transportation improvement projects.
Are you going to talk at all about form-based code, or is it surely use-based code?
We're not going to talk about form-based code. No. We tried. That's not going to work along this with us. I think the city has tried it on Johns Island, sort of to no avail. The county has tried it on larger track out in the west area, and if we tried to use form-based code, we would be here for years trying to figure out the best ways for that to happen. So I think development standards, especially for a corridor, form-based code is really better for larger regional planning. For a corridor, I think we're better off using a overlay district. So as I said, the purpose of the Johns Island Maybank Highway and Main Road project, the county planning department maintains an annual work program that's approved by county council. So this project of updating the Maybank Highway overlay is part of that work program. That's why the county is here. When we do these, like I said, well, we have a Mount Pleasant overlay district and other jurisdictions. We always try to work with the jurisdiction that we're in, and that's why we're both here. The two important projects listed are to review and revise the Maybank Highway Corridor Overlay District in coordination with the city and create an overlay zoning district for Main Road. The city and the county have begun the process. We've been meeting with the city for the past couple of months. You'll see later on in the presentation, we have a questionnaire, really a survey, that will be accessible online, that we want everyone along the corridor and everyone on Johns Island in particular to participate in that. That is going to be the valuable information that the city and county staff need to help develop a plan for the corridor. We get our information, our feedback from you, all right? The purpose is to present, as I said, the zoning overlay boundaries for Johns Island and to gather the public input and community survey and public comment. This is a tentative schedule. As you know, with all schedules, the further you go out, the more tentative it becomes. We do know that we are here on July 31st. That is happening. This is our kickoff meeting. Our plan is to introduce this project, show you how to participate in the project with the online survey, and then the staffs will be working with stakeholders during August. And September, we will start to draft some of the language that would be in an ordinance. And we want to bring this back to the community late October, maybe November, and show you what you all said, what you wanted in an ordinance as far as this Maybank Highway corridor, all right? And then as we get further out, and during the adoption process, we're looking at hopefully adopting something sometime in the spring of next year, okay?
Is this at St. John's next time, at the high school?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I understand. The Maybank Highway Corridor Overlay Zoning District was adopted by council as part of the Zoning and Land Development Regulations Ordinance in 2001. So Charleston County hasn't had an overlay district on Maybank since 2001. All right. The district was intended to create a commercial corridor that is well planned and attractive through implementation of traffic safety measures and consistent coordinated design standards. Since the last review of the overlay zoning district in 2006, of course, as you all know, many changes affecting Maybank Highway have taken place, including the city of Charleston. They adopted the Johns Island Community Plan in 2007. And just a reminder, as you may or may not know, Maybank Highway is a state road. So whatever effects that we make to that road, we have to coordinate that with the state. But we do have a pretty good track record, I think, recently with our transportation department of coordinating with the state with whatever changes may be appropriate to Maybank Highway. One of the growth management tools that have been implemented in Charleston County comprehensive plan is the urban growth boundary. We're going to briefly show you all what that is and what that means. And the urban growth boundary does implement the desired county policy to promote higher intensity development within the boundary and lower intensity development outside of the urban growth boundary. The city also has an urban growth boundary. They've adopted the exact same line that the county has, so we're right in line with each other. We are completing our comprehensive plan. It's going through the adoption process starting next month. Public hearing actually in August 21st at council chambers. We do not show any changes to that urban growth boundary anywhere in the county or Johns Island. And I know that the city is not planning on having any changes to the urban growth boundary. Yes.
So Joel, does the urban growth boundary have any legal standing, or is it just a?
It's an ordinance, so yes, it does, yes. And I'll let the city talk a little bit more about it. They have really locked it down good because they have connected it with the ability to provide infrastructure of sewer, right? Which is, as you know, is the big growth.
Does public safety come in, like if we all need to leave at the same time because of the hurricane?
It's public safety as far as, that's a county one, evacuate, yeah. And I know our transportation department looks at that as far as evacuation routes and everything. But remember, the main reason we're here is the corridor of Maybank and how it gets developed. And you're right, it does need to be built in a way that can carry the projected capacity. This map shows right now the Maybank Highway Corridor Overlay Zoning district, the counties. As I said, the county is the only one who has one. This is the boundary of the overlay zoning district. It encompasses all of the properties that front on Maybank Highway. And just spend a minute or two, and these will be available online as well, but spend a minute or two looking at this. I talked a little bit about the overlay district not being updated in a while. So as you can see, there is a lot of really light commercial, what we call commercial transition zoning in this overlay zoning district, and also single-family detached residential. And we're getting a lot of, we've been getting a lot of requests from property owners to possibly rezone those properties to something other than that. And we want to come to the community and ask you all what kind of development you would like to see along this corridor, which is part of the survey that we're doing. And if you don't want to see any, we need to hear that. Another thing that this map shows, and we'll talk a little bit more, but this is the urban growth boundary. This line right here goes down Chisholm, all right? It goes over this, it goes off the map a little bit. It follows all these property boundaries, then gets back up to River Road on the backside here. So all of this area right here is within the urban growth boundary of John's Island, all right? The city, do one of y'all want to talk about the city of Charleston's John's Island community plan?
I'm Jacob Lindsay with the City of Charleston's Department of Planning. And first of all, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. And was anybody here for the 2007 plan? Did anybody come into this room for the 2007 plan? So it's a lot of you, so you're aware of those efforts. In 2007, we did the last comprehensive study for John's Island. And as you all know, that plan called for a number of things to be done, called some things to be not done. And it was a really wonderful planning effort. And specifically when it comes to Maybank Highway, which is what we're here to discuss this evening, as Joel referenced, many things have changed since 2007. It's been quite a few years. And it's time for us to look once again at the land uses on Maybank Highway and be sure that we're still in sync. And that's why we're here with the county. Now, in 2007, the strategy that we all suggested with your input was that Maybank Highway would have something that we call the town and the country approach. Is anybody familiar with that concept, that approach? Some of y'all heard that. The idea was, we heard loud and clear that we needed to preserve the character of John's Island. That was a mandate. But we also need to move traffic. We're all aware of that. And that's more pressing than it's ever been. So we know that that's a thing we have to do. The strategy that we adopted was one where we collectively agreed there would be places where we would expand intersections to move cars through, places where you would have a more urban kind of street design, and then the areas in between would be rural in nature, keeping the character of Maybank Highway. So that is the approach that we adopted in 2007. We said if we're going to look at places where we do grow a little bit, but for the most part, we're going to keep that rural nature. That strategy is one that we want to hear from y'all, if that is still what we should be doing, is that the right approach? And there are a few things that have happened since 2007 that are in addition to the plan. The first thing is that Mayor Tecklenburg, as you all know, has called for the assembly of the Johns Island Growth Management Committee. I myself serve on that. There's other folks who serve on that committee as well in the room. And we are looking at new and innovative ways to fund infrastructure improvements. So I've heard a lot of folks say, well, this plan didn't work, or why are we dragging feet? Why don't we have funding? Mayor Tecklenburg has been clear that he wants to bring new tools to the table to fund the improvements that we have to make things work. It's a new approach, and we are looking at different things like a municipal improvement district and others, so we can come back to that. But the things that were called for in the 2007 plan need to be funded, and we're looking at new ways to do that. In addition to that, we're looking at the actual roadway itself. We've also just recently adopted the city's comprehensive transportation plan, or CTP, which just did that, and it does call for expanded capacity on the Maybank Highway where it's needed when it's needed. So we're looking to hear from you about the town and country approach, and if the land uses around still work. So that was a little bit more than just the 2007 plan, but it's certainly time for an update, and that's why we're here to listen to you about Maybank Highway. And I'll take one question. I heard one from this direction.
What about Main Road? Is that going to be addressed also?
Yes, I mentioned that.
we are well aware of that issue on Main Road. It's one the city has confronted a number of times as well. We know that. We hear that loud and clear. And I'm going to let Joel address the issue because the county both design and ultimately implement the improvements to Main Road. So I'm going to let my partner at the county take that question. For the most part, Main Road is not in the city jurisdiction. For the most part, it's in the city county. Now, the last thing I'll say, 2007 plan, we've got to revisit it on Maybank Highway and make sure this still works. I see your hand in the back, sir, and I'll take one more, and then I'll exit stage and talk about more than 2007. Is that we live in a place where there are multiple jurisdictions, right? The state owns most of our roadways. They fund a lot of our improvements. The county, our partners at the county are the ones who implement so many improvements. The city have a much smaller role in terms of funding improvements, but we also are involved in the approval of everything that happens. If we're gonna move forward together, we have to coordinate. And that's one of the things that we're doing now. Councilmember Wagner mentioned the coordination at the DUWOP study that we did in West Ashley, began 4 years ago. It's kind of unprecedented for us to work this closely together, and it's working. So, personally, I'm happy about the chance to coordinate with our partners at the county because I think that's the way that we ultimately will get things done. So it's a new approach for us to make sure that we're in sync across jurisdictions. So, yes, sir, in the back.
Thank you. Is there any consideration whatsoever for a flyover of Maybank Highway and River Road to eliminate the stop and go?
Right.
I've been running through these intersections for decades, and when it stops, it backs up, and you've got a 4-minute light on River Road, backs up for 2 miles in the morning, okay, it takes 4 or 5 lights to get through. Consequently, in the afternoon, it stacks it up on Stone Oak Bridge.
So the question, of course, is about congestion at Maybank.
Are they going to consider a flyover?
And specifically, will a flyover be considered? And first of all, we have our great traffic and transportation person from the county, Eric, is going to address those matters later. So I'm going to punt to my professional at the county. But with that said, raise your hand if you've never experienced congestion at River and Maybank. I mean, come on, we've all been through it.
I drove over here, I've seen it from nothing to this.
Right. So with that said, and we know how important this matter is.
We wouldn't be sitting here today.
So we know how critical this matter is. And again, I want to emphasize the fact that funding, coordination, and making sure that we can work together collectively between the state, the county, and the city is our pathway forward. So that's what we're trying to do as we look at these improvements. So anyway, that's more than the 2007 plan, but we're here to update the study of Maybank Highway with your input. And I promise I won't hog the mic too much.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Do the rest of it. Okay. A little bit of jurisdictional background as far as Maybank Highway, and again, let's keep it to Maybank Highway corridor and Main Road. It is part of this, so we can talk about that. But so far, we're doing pretty good on that. Let's see. We talked about the Maybank Highway corridor is definitely within the UGB. I showed you that map where the urban growth boundary line is, and then where the Maybank Highway overlay district is. The Maybank Highway frontage on Johns Island is split about even. I talked about that, about 50-50, city and county. The entire frontage length of Main Road is definitely within the jurisdiction of Charleston County, as Jacob Lindsay said. So whatever occurs there, whatever is adopted, that will only be adopted by Charleston County. There'd be no reason for the city to adopt any standards there. They don't have any jurisdiction there. And the main road, just like the Maybank Highway, is a DOT road, but I know there are going to be a lot of questions about improvements to Main Road and possibly Maybank. And when Eric Adams gets up here, which I do have a slide for him, I'll let him talk about those. And I think there is discussion of a flyover, but I don't want, that's all. I'll stop there and let him talk about it.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
A little bit washed out. The light gray is the city of Charleston, and the dark gray is Charleston County. This right here is Maybank Highway. So you can see that jurisdictionally and within the urban growth boundary on Johns Island around this Maybank Highway area is really split jurisdiction. It's really about 50-50. This is a map of Main Road. This is all dark gray. There's a little bit of city of Charleston up here where they annexed and created this subdivision years ago, but for the most part, this is all unincorporated Charleston County. The proposed overlay boundary for Maybank Highway on Johns Island differs in several locations from the current zoning, the current overlay, and I'll show you that. The primary reason for the modification of the existing Maybank Highway corridor overlay was to exclude some of the areas that are already developed. And in the case of, as in the case of the Angel Oak, that's already preserved, that's in a conservation easement. The proposed overlay boundary for Main Road is confined to nodes, primarily 2 nodes. So we're not talking about a consistent, like Maybank, a corridor overlay where we see development along the whole thing. We're isolating it to nodes where there's already commercial development happening. All right. And the remainder of Main Road will retain its current zoning, which is predominantly RR3 and AGR. So this is the proposed overlay boundary. All right. It starts above River Road and follows Maybank down. This blue line right here is the overlay of where the existing overlay district boundary is. And so it expanded a little bit up here to get closer to the water. And we cut it back a little bit here. This is Angel Oak right here. All right. But other than that, the boundary is following the exact line of where it was. We tucked it a little bit here because this development has occurred and it doesn't no longer fronts on Maybank. All right. This is an aerial of the proposed map of the proposed boundary. All right. And you can see there is a lot of undeveloped, or I should say maybe underdeveloped property along Maybank Highway. There will be pressure to develop this more and more. All right. If we don't come up with a plan as to what this should look like, it could be developed in a way that the community doesn't want to see. It may not be advantageous to the community. So, and so that's why we're here, is to get information from you all as to how this should be developed, so that the decision makers, our planning commissions, and our council members can hear that and take that into consideration as there are zoning requests, or rezoning requests. This is the current zoning on the island. The yellow is residential, and this sort of pale yellow is what we call community commercial transitional as well. It's green, sorry. Yeah. Plus it's washed out. But it is a mix of single-family detached residential and light commercial, and there is some heavy commercial with the reds. Some of these heavy commercials here. All right. So it's a little bit of a patchwork going on, and it's sort of reflected as you drive down Maybank Highway. You see single-family residence beside a restaurant and then a storage facility, and maybe this should look a little bit more consistent, have some more cohesive design to it. All right. As far as Main Road goes, as I said, we're talking primarily 2 nodes, one at the River Road and Main Road intersection. Don't let this scare you. That's mostly marsh. That just happens to capture all of the property boundary. So really, we're going to be isolated to this area here as far as the highland. This would be our sort of main node. This is near the packing shed between Kitford and Humbert. This is where we have some industrial zoning and tomato shed and a lot of actually very appropriate, also and sort of rural commercial uses that are appropriate for that area. We want to start looking at that and refining some of these zoning districts and even expanding some of the uses that are there. All right.
Where's the third node we're talking about?
Yeah, I'll show you right here. This is at Marion Point Road. And these are zoned commercial in the county, and we were thinking about, and this is sort of our biggest sort of iffy one, we're not sure, we want to get feedback from the community as to whether or not this should be isolated here or maybe expanded into a smaller node. All right. Yeah. And if that's not acceptable, we want to hear that. We just saw it as an existing commercial, as a potential smaller node, but if it's not appropriate, let us know. And I'll show you later during the survey part of how you can participate. All right. So in contrast to the Maybank Highway corridor on James Island, there are many undeveloped vacant parcels, as I showed you in that aerial. A lot of still heavily wooded or underdeveloped. The residential development along the corridor includes older single-family detached homes, as well as formal entrances to subdivisions and apartment complexes. Existing commercial development on the island is similar to James Island and ranges from regional shopping centers to trendy restaurants and bars and to multiple mom and pop type of shops. And they're also professional and medical office space. Historically, the existing land uses along Main Road have varied from rural and agricultural residential uses to commercial and light industrial uses. The corridor is also experiencing new development in several locations, including multifamily residential and additional commercial development. And similar to the Maybank Highway, it is likely that the corridor will experience continued development pressure and increased traffic volumes. So we need to have a plan. We need to isolate where that's going to happen, so that our decision makers know when someone comes with a request that's outside of that they have a plan to reflect on and say, well, we know what the community said. They don't want this here. They don't want that here. All right. So, transportation. I'll let Eric talk a little bit. This is Eric Adams with our Transportation Development Department. I think he'll answer quite a few of the questions that y'all have had.
Good evening, everybody. I feel kind of like the guest of honor, or maybe the opposite of that. Let me just start out saying that we definitely realize that transportation infrastructure is a major priority on Johns Island. But with any transportation infrastructure project, what we need is funding. So funding has been provided by the county's half-cent sales tax program. So we have a number of projects that are within these corridors of Maybank Highway and Main Road that I'm going to talk about tonight. Again, these are funded projects that we are currently and actively working on. The first one that is in construction, I know you're all aware of, as you come off the bridge, is the additional westbound lane. Connect from the bridge to River Road. Substantial completion is set for September 11th. So looking at next month, we should have substantial completion on that project. Another project in that same area is the Northern Pitchfork Road. So that will provide connection at Philbeck LA, and it will connect over to River Road. We're taking council action back to county council for additional funding. As I mentioned at the beginning, funding is always the key element of these projects. In August or September for additional funding. We're working with SCDOT. It's a River Roads, a state-owned roads, working in coordination with SCDOT and with the city of Charleston. And we're anticipating submitting our permit applications in October of 2018. So we're moving that project forward. The third project that I want to talk about that was brought up by the gentleman in the back is River Road and Maybank Highway. No, we are not entertaining a flyover there. A flyover for an intersection like that would cost you $30 million roughly.
What's it cost in time and fuel sitting on the bridge?
I understand that. So what we do have planned there, let me tell you what we do have planned there, is to improve the intersection would be dual left turns coming southbound from River Road for some Brownswood side and turning left towards Charleston. So it'd be dual left turns there. You'd also have dual lanes coming through the intersection on Maybank Highway going towards, now that lane is going to merge back to one lane as you go towards the bridge.
Yes, sir. Is that going to be similar to Camp and Folly Road?
Yes, it will be somewhat similar to that.
That intersection is awful. I grew up in James Island. It doesn't flow. It's just a big intersection.
So let me cover the last one too.
And if you designed it, I apologize.
So the last one of interest that I'm sure you're interested in is the intersection of US 17 and Main Road. In addition, part of that project is Main Road widening. So the limits of that project go from that intersection all the way to Betsy Garrison. It's a $195 million project budget is what we have anticipated. Right now we're working with our engineering consultant, negotiating the contract. So we've done preliminary surveys, but design work is going to get underway in earnest here within the next month or so. And what we've done on that project too, working with county council and with our partners, is prioritizing the intersection of US 17 and Main. So we understand that along Main Road, there's more potential environmental impacts. There's more historic properties. It could be more controversial in those segments. But we know that 17 and Main is a capacity issue, it's a safety issue, it's a drainage issue, it's a flooding issue. So we have prioritized that segment. So our goal is to deliver that project and hopefully be to construction within 2.5 to 3 years. If we did the whole segment together, we would be looking at the national average to go through the NEPA process. It's 8 to 12 years just to get to construction. So understand what we're doing is prioritizing that segment so that we can expedite what we feel like is really the most needed, immediate need.
Because it also affects Main River,
Yes.
East Ferry, and other areas.
Right, so, and we know there's, I want to emphasize the safety, that's been identified as a safety issue. You have high-speed tractor trailers running through there, a lot of left turn movements cutting across there. You also have the flooding issue along Main Road when it overtops with a high tide and a lot of rain. So we're aware of that. So we really want to emphasize that we are prioritizing that project. So those are the 4 projects I have, and I know this is a corridor overlay meeting to talk about land use along Maybank Highway, so I don't want to take up all the time, but I'd be happy to answer a few questions, and I can hang out afterwards. We do have, I want to tell you about our website. We have all of these projects that I mentioned are listed on our website. It's roads.charlestoncounty.org. You can go there. It's continually updated. You'll have contact information there to the project managers. You can reach out to them directly to and keep you up to date on the project. Yes, ma'am.
I have a procedural question, and that is when the county receives possible development plans for an area, how much coordination is there between planning and transportation to any approval of the issue?
So the way it works, and I don't work in planning, but the way I understand it works is they'll review the site development and then they'll work with the owner of the road, whether that be SCDOT or Charleston County Public Works Department. And they'll have to do a traffic impact study and address whatever those concerns are that are identified within that traffic impact study.
Why is that? Why doesn't it get looked at up front?
But it is, before anything's approved, it is reviewed by the entity who owns the road. Yes. And they are the ones that DOT or the county or the city, whoever has jurisdiction of the road, they will dictate what kind of improvements to the road need to be done based on the development.
Before they build the houses?
Yes, and the county, they have to show that. I don't know, you can talk to the developers if they had to build deceleration lanes or acceleration lanes or put a light in. If the traffic studies warranted, they have to do what the traffic studies say.
Study groups need to go back to school.
They don't live over here.
Yes, ma'am.
When you talk about widening Main Road, what do you mean? How many lanes are we talking about? 4 lanes with a turn lane in the center?
So what was in the referendum that went through and passed through county council as part of the ordinance? The Bohicket section, the idea is a divided highway similar to Betsy Harrison Parkway. So you would have a large buffer in between. That's the concept of that section. The concept for from Maybank back to River, I don't know. Can't tell you yet until we identify all the impacts that would be associated with a wider footprint versus a more narrow footprint.
What about Main Road, the rest of Bohicket?
So yeah, Bohicket is the divided highway, and then from Maybank back to River towards West Ashley, it is yet to be determined.
No. From Maybank on Main back to 17.
Yes, so that's the part I'm talking about is yet to be determined. So going back towards US 17, that's where we're going to have to look at wetland impacts, other historic property impacts, to see how wide of a footprint, how many properties that would impact with a wider footprint. So yet to be determined. Yes, sir.
Basically what I'm trying to understand is, you're saying it's gonna be about 2 or 3 years before you really get anything done down at the intersection on Main and River Road? I mean, Main and 17.
Before we start construction, that's,
2 to 3 years.
Before they start,
Maybank, you're really not gonna do anything except for up at the light on in town, correct?
correct.
So, the state taking the extra 8 foot from all the citizens here on Maybank back in 91, putting in the sewers and gas lines in 93, and the road to be 4-laned in 95 is just a thing of myth. And will be for another generation.
So,
If it takes 8 to 12 years to do basically 7 miles, we're gonna wait another generation?
there's no funding identified for Maybank Hwy.
We're gonna wait another generation.
Eric, what happened to the plan that was advertised here in 2007, widen Maybank, put in the 10-foot
All my life.
wide hiker-biker path, put in the pitchfork. In 2008, we're gonna start acquiring right-of-way, and we're gonna start construction in 2009. What happened to that money?
So, you're talking about the town and country concept?
Yeah, but
So it wasn't not the
there was
4-lane.
a plan to widen Maybank, put in the 10-foot wide hiker-biker path. We had meetings right here in
So,
this room.
so we
That's
have
right.
that on our website. On our website, at the Maybank Highway Project, we have a list. It's probably, has about 10 council actions listed there of the history of that project. I would not do it justice because I did not work with the county. I was involved at that time. But I wouldn't do it justice to give you the history. All I can tell you about is where we are now and how we're trying to move forward with the funding that we do have available
The
today.
rumors say the money went to James Island to do harbor view. Is that,
No, so
Why are you worried about what we're gonna build when you can't even give us the road to build on?
right, so all I'm going to talk about is the projects that we have funding for, what we're trying to accomplish with that money. Yes, ma'am.
It's all you.
a flyover from 17 onto Main. Whatever happened to that?
That's what we are working on now.
So you would, in 2 to 3 years, you might have a plan to think about acquiring stuff to the flyover.
So our goal is in 3 years to start construction of a flyover. You got to think about the other impacts. The properties we're going to impact, we're going to have to potentially acquire right of way. Our funding for the project was just approved as part of the 2016 half-cent sales tax referendum. That was when the funding was identified for that project. That will be in the segment that we're prioritizing, the flyover. The limits of the project will extend to that intersection. So that's part of that, will be part of that project.
This is for the,
I'll take one or two more, so I don't need
this is for the city and the county council. What can't y'all get together? And we have a problem with finishing Maybank Highway, so River Road. We have one tree that's holding up the whole project. Why can't the city and the county get together and remove that one tree so they can finish up that project? Now, I got this from the supervisor.
Mr. Hank, I'm gonna look into that. I don't know of any tree that's holding up any progress right now, but I'll verify it. All right, two more. Yes, sir, in the back. Then I'll come to you.
Yes, sir. The city of Charleston said that during the construction on Maybank, that the sensor at River Road was damaged, and that was about 4.5 months ago, and both the city and the county were made aware of the damage, but they haven't repaired that sensor. So all these people in this room and everybody that transits onto Johns Island has been sitting in traffic for 4.5 months, when both the city transportation department and the county were fully informed that the traffic light was damaged, and they didn't, respond to it. I have the email here, so I'll be glad to share it with anyone who questions it. But,
I'll follow up. So the city of Charleston maintains that signal. I'll follow up.
the city maintains the signal. I can send the email to you. and they notified the county that the damage was caused by the county contractor. Why wasn't something done, or why didn't the city send someone out to manually manipulate the light to help us?
So that's the first I've heard of it, but I'll follow up. And I'll, see me afterwards, I'll give you my contact. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to talk about the northern pitchfork. I understand that this was proposed as a means to improve traffic flow from Maybank Highway to River Road, avoiding the Maybank Highway intersection there. Also vice versa, bringing traffic back. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand this involves the traffic light at the intersection of Maybank Highway and the beginning of the pitchfork. Then it goes into the pitchfork, and then there is a proposal for an expensive roundabout, which will serve the Fenwick developments. Then continuing there will be parallel parking along the pitchfork. And then at the end of the pitchfork, where it intersects with River Road, there will be another traffic light. And eventually there is to be another Fenwick development directly across from that traffic light. So I've heard this described as a deal between the developers and the city. And I don't see how this is going to improve traffic flow at that intersection. How it's going to make someone coming to River Road down Maybank Highway, turning right at the Maybank Highway intersection going up River Road. How is the pitchfork going to make that better?
So it's interesting you asked that, because we had similar questions from county council. They asked us to go back and reanalyze it with a traffic study. We just got the results of those back in, and that's what we're going to take to county council in August with the request for additional funding. But what it is telling us is that during peak hours coming westbound from James Island onto Johns Island, that it will save you, when the northern pitchfork is constructed, it will save approximately 3 minutes of time of travel time. That's what the traffic analysis shows. The northern pitchfork.
Don't spend no money on that.
So that $82,000
Turn it back over to
Thank you, Eric, very much. All right, so talking about the next steps here real quick. One question, yes, sir, right there. You with the hand, right? Yes. There's no funding has been identified as of yet. All right. Let me go back. If you don't mind, let me go back to the presentation here. Just finish this up. So following the 2 zoning public workshops and the closing date for the community survey, staff will compile and review all the public input data received during the month of August. This is our tentative schedule. We will conduct stakeholder meetings with various groups. Obviously, we'll be working with our transportation folks and with our public works department and with the city staff and their counterparts for transportation and stormwater. Beginning in September, we'll use the public stakeholder input to guide in the preparation of a draft overlay zoning district document. And the draft document will be presented at a future community meeting, and I do know one thing, it will not be here. It will be somewhere else where we can accommodate at least, I think we're looking at probably 200 to 300 people. But I think for this meeting, that's okay. My counterpart, my assistant deputy director, Andrew Petrus, is out with all the folks that were standing in line. And she is helping people understand the process. I know y'all had a lot of questions, but really this is a kickoff meeting. We just wanted to introduce the project, let you know that the city and the county are working on this together and that we need your information. And just real quickly here, I want to go over the survey. Andrea had to take all the hard copies of the survey out to hand out, but Dan is going to, and I will go over with the survey and show you just briefly what the questions are. and you'll have to access those online. That's what we prefer anyway, because we can use it through the survey on the internet and compile the answers a lot better and a lot quicker. There's also, you'll see in the survey, there's places, it's not just a yes, no, or I like this, I don't like that. There are places additional comments. And it very well may be that a majority of the folks don't want to see any zoning changes until there are others, and we heard a little bit about that on James Island last night. Write that down. Our planning commission and our council needs to hear that. That's why we're here, okay? But we don't know it until we hear it, and we can put it in a report form. All right, so Dan,
You get some money and we'll get some results.
yeah.
The next slide will show a screenshot of the.
Okay, so here's the screenshot. If you go to www.charlestoncounty.org, this is, you go to the zoning and planning department, this is the page that you'll see. And Dan, where am I gonna see right at the bottom right there.
Yeah.
Yep, right at the bottom right there. We have, so again, as I said, we're doing this on James Island and Johns Island. You press on these buttons right here. The James Island one's the first one you'll see, the Johns Island one's the second one. All right. And Dan, you want to just pull up and I'll just really briefly just go show you what the survey looks like, okay?
Will these photographs and pictures you have up, will they be available on that website?
Yes, we can make this presentation available. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to see these.
Yes. Yeah, this is just a kickoff, so I understand you all have to look at these maps and digest it, and but you'll see the survey is sort of geared to be able. Yes, sir, you've had your hand up several times. Go ahead.
Is there any chance, I get emails regularly from the county about zoning changes and this and that. For this corridor that you're gonna have, is there any way you can put a freeze on what your decisions you're making now that may not fit into what you're doing? I mean, like we just got one for a liquor license on,
yes.
South Wigan, Maine, at Maybank.
Yeah.
Like, so what's going in there?
Yeah.
You know, maybe people don't want liquor licenses, put new houses going in there, they don't want bars in there.
If it's in the county, I can tell you, if someone's applying for alcohol license, there's a public hearing for that. And the people can come out and speak against that if they don't want it. So there is it's not going to be an automatic.
You have a process going on now to try to limit that sort of thing, that everything will fit within that corridor, and that's why we're here, to decide what the zoning we want to do within that corridor.
Right, that's why there's an existing overlay zoning district there now, and it doesn't matter what overlay zoning district you're in, or if you're not in an overlay zoning district. All properties within Charleston County have a zoning attached to it. Wherever there is alcohol sales that are allowed, there's a public hearing process for that for our Board of Zoning Appeals. All right? Yes, sir. One more.
I just got one question. If we're looking at 3 to 5 years before we get any relief as far as roads go, how many more people are going to move to Johns Island in that 3 to 5 years?
A little over 17,000 a year.
I mean, somebody approved all these subdivisions. Half of the subdivisions are being built on wetlands. They're filling up the wetlands, they're mucking them up and bringing in dirt. Then the neighbor next door, he's full of water. This is ridiculous what we're living over here. I've been here since 1957, when it was tomato farm. Well, the farmers are rich people now because they sold off all the land. And, you know, everybody's getting flooded up. I'm paying for a drainage system. I don't have a drain on Chisholm Road.
I don't have a ditch standard, I'm trying to, but I agree with you.
I don't have no drainage.
There are places in the survey when you go to it.
I know, I just gotta
we need to hear that. We need to hear the specifics of all of that so that we can relay that to our.
Your biggest problem is you don't have the money to direct.
I personally don't have the money.
But they are approving all these
Let me get back to the survey so I can show y'all where, and again, this is where you can put all of this down. Our planning commission and our council members need to hear all of this. And as I said, maybe the answer is nothing changes on Maybank Highway till other things are done. And that, our council members need to hear that, okay? All right.
When you access this online, it's gonna look different than this.
Yeah, this is a printout version when it's online, but the questions are the same, but it'll be graphically look a little bit different. So we're going to be asking things like, you know.
If we're male or female, really?
Well,
That's wasting our time.
This is demographic information. We can get that information from the federal government. Okay, all right. Basically, do you live on Johns Island? We want to be sure that we're getting people that are taking the survey that they actually live here and are experiencing going there. No. We want to make sure that we don't want people that don't live on the island to not take it, but we want to see what kind of people are living on the island that are participating in it, okay? We want to encourage anyone to definitely participate, because we know that. How long have you lived on Johns Island? How long do you experience any drainage issues or flooding? What do you think are the most important issues concerning the island? Keep going, Dan. Do you work on Johns Island? If not, where do you work? How often you travel Maybank Highway? Yep. We need to hear all of that stuff. All right. So just go online. Yes, ma'am.
Where are your options for where you live? Don't specify. Guatemala, Stroke, Cuba, whatever.
They might not know they're
being counted. We have to travel the same road.
There is a comment section in the survey. You can add all of that in there. Okay. All right. I do not live on Johns Island. Oh, there you go.
You got one.
But the process to get the information to develop it is the same. This is the information that we need. And because we don't live here, that's especially why we do it. What is your commute time from work? Do you have a question about the Maybank Highway process in 2007?
We're going to be here 10 years from now. We're going to be doing the same thing we did in 2007. We got nothing done in 2007. 10 years we're going to be here and nothing done. Exactly. Nothing done.
Yes, sir.
All the way back because we do not have training. I was this high, flooding in my head. Never had that problem. It's on the menu code coming up. So the drainage is
Yeah, It's available online. Please, everyone, participate in it and encourage other folks to participate in it. And we need this information. It will be, this will be on our website and available until August 17th. All right? After August 17th, it won't be available because we'll need to start compiling the information. Yes, ma'am. We can make hard copies available. How about at the library? Yeah, at the, Dan, can you make a note of that? That we'll make hard copies available at the library. And, but remember that the 17th is going to be the deadline.
Pervious concrete.
Right.
Pervious concrete, all fiber.
Yes, why not? What it is, that's an option.
There's some regulations for the city and the county. You won't construct it or development until
That is a question for our council members, the city council and county council, because they're the only ones that can pass the
to the planners for the county and the city. You're allowing all this development to take place, and it's just dumping people on the design that doesn't have the infrastructure. The city loves it because they can get more taxes out of rural areas and put up condominiums. They don't care. County doesn't seem to care. So is there a consideration about you now as the planning director for a moratorium for 3 to 5 years on all future development? The whole lot.
All I can tell you is that a moratorium was introduced by a council member for development on James Island, and it did not get passed. I don't want to speak for the city. I think there was a moratorium that might have been proposed. Jacob, you want to talk about it? Yeah. I mean, it's not the planning department's decision. That is the county council and the city council.
So what Joel is saying is true, that matters related to zoning, all zoning is reviewed first by our planning commission. They make a recommendation, then our city council ultimately votes. And that changes zoning one way or the other. Staff have the power to change zoning. That's done through those bodies. Now, in regards to the idea of the moratorium, there have in fact been 2 moratorium proposals in the city of Charleston in regards to just John's Island. And the first one was discussed in relation to traffic. Anytime we pass a moratorium, in order for it to be legally defensible, there has to be a reason. You know, the government can't just act to stop something from happening. There has to be justification. You don't hold up when you get sued. So the justification for the first one, the first attempted moratorium, was on the basis of traffic. Too much traffic, therefore we should hold on growth. And that moratorium was not passed by our city council. The second proposal was one related to drainage that said that maybe we should bring a moratorium in relation to drainage in order to restrain growth while we look at that matter. That moratorium is not currently being taken up by our city council. And with that said, you know, the idea that we need to slow down growth is something that we've heard, and council has heard. And I don't want you to feel like that's falling on deaf ears. We've heard that, council have heard that matter. The key thing as we move forward right now is that we are acting to work together to provide funding for our infrastructure, to get the money and plans together so that we can build the things that are needed, both drainage enhancements and transportation enhancements, and work together in multiple jurisdictions, the county, the city, the state, to make sure that we're moving together as we go forward. That's what, as planners and administrators, that's what we can do. That's what we're trying to do now. So the idea of a moratorium has been considered, but hasn't passed our city council.
But there's no urgency to get you guys moving.
I'm sure that your elected officials do feel some sense of urgency, as do your planners, might I add. Okay,
How did you vote on that?
No. You know why?
Yeah.
One item, we want a moratorium to study transportation issues. Anybody in here have a clue why the traffic is backed up on every road? Why do we need to study it? I get 11 calls from my council members, my associates, and they said, why do we need to study transportation? We know what's wrong. It came on that one issue and it got voted down. It's that simple. Now, when we have look, like he said, we have a whole lot of problems out here. There are something in excess of 29 subdivisions out there in the wings that have been approved for over 20 years, guys. Okay?
Y'all did it.
I got a full-time job making sure they stay where they're at, in limbo. Now, can there be a moratorium? Yes. I stood up on TV. I said, we got to get a pause, but we have to have a reason.
Drainage.
Drainage. What did I say the very first time I came up here now?
What about the church drainage area in West Addison? I'm a happy owner. I live on John Simon, and I'm a happy owner of one of those properties that's flooded 4 times since 2015 because of the wanton development over there. I think we should learn a lesson every year.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. The very first thing I said to y'all tonight was, we're going to look at drainage.
Well, look, take it on.
Now,
Look, that's all.
it has a cost. I can't do it. I don't know. This whole staff has to come forward, do their studies, bring it to us, then we can act on it. I mean, I have no problem. I'm actually
Hey, Jerry. You got your number on your clear card. I need to talk to you. Here you know I called you tonight.
Remember, in election time.
We don't get to vote for everyone.
We just continue to bitch
Oh,
about
I
it.
got you.
We keep putting the same people back.
We didn't get to vote
So
for
just
one.
remember that next election.
And that would be your answer. I'm doing my best for y'all. There are 12 of us. You know, I gotta have 7 votes to do anything. It's gotta come to us. That's controlled by the mayor and his staff. If it doesn't come to me, I can't vote. I can't say a word about it. There are a whole lot of people pushing drainage on John's Island. I'm one of them. Just hang in there just a little bit with me. If not, hey, I'll be here running.
She asked you what more can we do? What can we do as a group to put heat on all your compadres?
Hey, should we show up to the next city council meeting, all of us?
Can we bring as many people as possible?
Well, it can happen again, too.
We gotta get the ordinance. We gotta get the ordinance. We've been fussing all of the council members. We're all listed on the city record. Anybody else say they're talking to y'all? I believe council members, me and the mayor. Let's get stuff done. We need to study our drainage. We need to slow down. But we also got to understand that these people that own this property, there's such thing as property rights, and that's a state law. So we got to remember that too. We can't break state law. We can pass an ordinance, we can slow it down. But what's the use of slowing it down if we can't fix it while it's slowed down?
Walter, I think if you had a perception of more proactivity, we'd feel a whole lot better.
I'm sorry I'm not projecting that. I really am. I've been working with some of the other folks here, and if you want to be part of what I'm working with, I'll give you my card, we'll sit down and we'll talk.
She didn't stop it.
Yes, ma'am.
I was one of the outsiders. Can you hear me? I was one of the outsiders in the overcapacity area. When do you anticipate the next meeting will be
Sure.
held? Because there's over 100 people
Yes.
that have already signed up.
So you were not here when I announced that there will be another meeting, and it will not be held here. It will be held, hopefully we're gonna check at Johns Island High School, okay? Because we know there's about 300 people that wanted to attend this, all right? I was basing
November.
the Johns Island Growth Committees about how many people were gonna come to this, and so, yes, ma'am.
I again was outside,
Yes.
and I feel like, the working class is not represented over here. I'm a working mom with 4 kids. So I came to the last meeting, it was overfull. I came now, it was overfull. What I really would like is for you guys to think outside the box. I don't have time to come over here and, and sit outside. So I've got 4 kids to cook for, but I am part of this community. I've been here 20 years. What I would like is for you guys to come up with some solutions. So if I can't make it here, I would like my comments to be documented on the email. So there's a public comment, so people can't come over here. The locals have a venue where it's recorded. If it wasn't written, it wasn't done. This way, if you gotta do it in Spanish, English, whatever, get it done. Put it on paper, you can see it, you can have your auditors look at it.
They won't care.
So, when you were outside, we had a plan to go out and explain the survey, okay.
It's better how to read it to me, because first of all, you guys wasted paper. There were 34 questions, it was way too long. I could not understand half these definitions that you guys put on this piece of paper. Some of these questions are duplicates, so anybody that has half a grade is only going to fill 10 questions. Anybody that has a full grade, like me, is not going to complete a survey that's 34 questions, some of them are duplicate. So you're wasting time and money to do this.
We can't hear you. Also create a comment section on your website where everybody can take a comment and other people can read it and respond back. Create, your IT department can handle that and get it up there with this list. So you need to take all the comments.
I'll talk to our IT department about that. All right. No. The city will not serve sewer outside everybody.
Can I have your attention, please? I know we're getting ready to leave, and a lot of people still have questions that they feel did not get answered, but this is the beginning of hearing how you feel about the Maybank Highway and Main Road corridors. First meeting we had. So we're gathering information. We want to hear your input. And I think
You
that
know the
Mr.
input. You know how angry people are on Johns Island. And did you vote for the moratorium? I'd like to know.
Miss,
Yes?
we did not have this question in front of Charleston County.
Why not?
And right now, what I want to say. Okay, just let, Charleston County Council, not the city of Charleston.
Right.
But I welcome your input because I need to hear how you feel. And so if you don't express how you feel, whether it's orally or whether it's on the survey, then I don't know how you feel. So we're just asking you to cooperate with us, and please just do as the gentleman, Mr. Evans, was asking you to do. Write your concerns down, either on the computer or on the survey. That's going to be a great help for us.
When we go
But-
to the council meeting, we have no say-so.
I know, voted against the Greenway percentage, but that was taken away from us too.
Well, I'm sorry, you have the misinformation about that right now. So I just want to straighten all of that out. I voted for the 70-30, if that's what you're talking about. Okay, so no, that's not what you said. But I'm not here to debate this. I'm just asking you to please just help us out. Give us the answer, because if you don't help us, we have to go on what information we have.
You don't know.
We are going on that information that we have. And so, Mr. has said that he plans to have another meeting. It'll be in a bigger venue. Usually we go to St. John's High School or we go to Hot Gap. So hopefully it'll be one of those venues the next time when school is open. Thank you so much.
I'm not saying. So I get Anna, but Joe Boykin.
That's all we have. We let you know where the survey, yes ma'am.
I just have a quick question. These comment cards, I would like to know, I'm handing mine in now.
Yes.
Where do they go? And who sees them?
So-
That's really important to me.
Sure. The planning staffs, both the city and the county, will look at the comment cards, then we'll type them out into like a spreadsheet. We'll use those for information. Okay? At the front desk. Okay, yeah. Then you can, don't be a
I must have been on a bad windy day. Blew away.
Try to get all these maps.